Hello, brilliant and embodied souls. My name is Kim. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I have the Abaton Keys here with me, and we are going to do a in-depth review of this beautiful transformative deck. There are a few other dedicated videos to this deck. However, I don't see too many people talking about it. It is an older deck. It was published in 2013. So, okay, it's been around a spell. I just really felt called to do a more in-depth review because of what I've been experiencing while working with this deck. As you can see, it was created by Patty Allen, and it is a dream healing oracle. I'm going to talk about the overall theme of this deck. Then we're going to get into the cards. Then we'll talk about the little white book, and then we'll take a look at some of the pairings. So starting with the theme, this is a deck that we could say is dedicated to Asclepius, the god of healing, and specifically healing via dreams. Abatons were ancient temples that existed in ancient Greece that people would have pilgrimages to in order to receive healing via a variety of methods, but one of the big methods was entering into healing temples and sleeping and dreaming within these temples. Sometimes the people would receive direct healing within the dreams, or they would receive messages about how to do healing outside of the dream, but they would receive the instructions within the dream. The temples were attended to by human priests and priestesses, and there was a whole I guess like maybe community that often would surround some of these temples. Asclepius is a very interesting deity to me for a variety of reasons, but I am somebody who is very interested in a whole variety of healing modalities, including psychotherapy, but others as well. And Asclepius and his entourage of deities, whether they're children or associates, is kind of a healing pantheon of sorts. So this is a really fantastic deck for diving into those themes, which we'll circle back to a little bit more when we get into the guidebook. Let's first talk about the cards and some of the practical aspects of this deck. This is not the original backing. The original back looked a lot like the front of the guidebook. So as a heads up, I used contact paper to freshen up the deck. I just really did not like the way that the original backs looked with the pastel borders and artwork found within this deck, which is a collage deck. This is a standard oracle size. I can't put it in its box anymore, so it did come in this box because the contact paper did thicken up the deck somewhat. But I will say that the cardstock wasn't super duper thick, so when I added the contact paper, it isn't terrible to work with. There's still a nice bend and snap to the cards, even with the contact paper. So those are some of the logistics. Let's take a look at some of the cards now. As I said earlier, we've got beautiful collage work along with pastel borders. The cards have a keyword up at the top, and then we do get a suit indication down at the bottom. There's color coding going on. So medicine is orange. Wisdom is this lovely lilac color. We've got green and ritual. And then we've got blue for drama. The suits also have elemental correspondences, which you can reference in the guidebook. This is a very dynamic analog collage deck. It feels very dreamy. The collage definitely has a unconscious, subconscious feel to it. And I'd say that that's the pull-in with this idea of dreams. The card images can be very surreal. Beyond that, the cards themselves or the artwork doesn't really have tons of reference to that theme of Asclepius and the healing temples. But the keywords and the suits really tie this deck all together, making it a very cohesive deck for healing. Oh my gosh, I love this particular card because it just demonstrates how powerful some of the collage images can be. Sometimes it doesn't even look like they're collage. Sometimes it feels like, oh, this just is the image, right? This child like wrapped up in this fern. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really powerful stuff. And then at other times, you do get a very hodgepodge and even chaotic kind of collage work, which does take on a very dreamy quality. I've had dreams where there's so much going on that I feel completely overwhelmed and all over the place, just like this particular card. Even though the keyword is purification, but right, we're maybe trying to purify ourselves and organize our thoughts such that we can be more focused and less overwhelmed. So as you can see, the collage artwork does a lot for me. There's a lot of intuitive jumping off points within the artwork. It's also very dynamic because we do have photography juxtaposed with classical paintings. It's a really wonderful collage oracle deck. So many folks are into collage oracle decks as well as collage tarot decks. This goes really, really well with other collage decks. So if you're a big collage collector or collage fan, I think this is another deck to consider putting on your list. It does come from Canada. It is an independently produced deck, which I should have mentioned earlier, but I don't remember it being especially pricey for a independently produced deck, and it came fairly quickly. Yeah, the artwork is very dynamic, as I said. We've got, this very sweet and innocent and feminine collage work in this particular card. And then, right, we get this kind of austere and very, very clean and put together collage going on. So there's a lot of emotionality within this deck. There's a lot of variety going on. It tends to read very, very well for me. In terms of the keywords and the artwork, I don't necessarily need the keyword. There's a lot to work with just in terms of the artwork, but you know, the keyword and the artwork go really well together. Sometimes oracle decks really lean heavily on the keywords. You know, sometimes they lean heavily on the artwork. I feel like this oracle has a really nice balance between the two. You know, in addition to that, you know, some people really want to just be able to work off of the card. What do I see here on the card, as opposed to going to a guidebook? That can be accomplished with this deck. You don't need to reference the guidebook in order to get some very, very clear messages and guidance. Let's shift a little bit in terms of like, well, what are the messages from this oracle deck? How does it read? What are some of its themes? So it is a very healing oriented deck. The voice of this deck is that of a psychotherapist, a counselor, a wise one who has walked the path of hardship, who has earned a certain level of wisdom and spiritual, as well as psychological, as well as, you know, lived experience, acumen. This is the voice. The voice of this deck comes from somebody who's walked the walk, talks the talk, practices what they preach. It is a mature voice. It is a kind voice, a compassionate voice. And yet it's not going to let you get away with stuff. This is a deck that is, on the one hand, very comforting and loving, but it also sets limits. It calls you out when you need to be called out. It is a really, really lovely deck in that regard. Some oracle decks that do skew in the healing direction can just be tender, gentle, and don't get me wrong, like I need those decks that just fit squarely in the tender, gentle, soft, soothing category. Because when I'm up in my feels, that's just where I need to be met first and foremost. This deck has some of those qualities, but it also will tap you on the shoulder and say, oh, hun, you know, I know this is hard, but you've really got to look at this. You can't ignore what's going on here. It sets limits, as I said. It points out where we're dismissing or disowning that which we really need to own, what we really need to look at. It's a really compelling deck because it can hold both of those aspects. And when we are working on healing, we need both. We need the compassion and the tenderness and the gentleness, but we also need the boundary setting, the limit setting, and the accountability to look at what we need to look at. Yeah, this is a really compelling deck for those reasons. And then you know, it's versatile. It really comes down to versatility as well, which we will get into momentarily. So let's do a quick little shuffle and take a look at the guidebook, shall we? Okay, I pulled Origin, so let's take a look at the Origin entry for the guidebook. So the cards are numbered, which makes navigating the guidebook really, really useful. And you get, let's take a look at the table of contents. You have an introduction, how to use the deck, creating sacred space. You do get spreads. Then we get a breakdown of the suits, which, as you can see, are divided up elementally. There's a discussion of numerology, and then about the author, and artist. So number 3 here, Origin, has this particular entry. So you get a thumbnail of the card. You have this section, which is the ancient world. So you get some really educational information in this deck. The ancient world section will often speak about a particular myth or philosopher or play or deity. There's a lot packed into this little book. It's really, really lovely. So if we take a look at the ancient world, I have no Xmenes. Yeah, ooh. Lived in 585 BC to 528 BC and was the first to break away from the early philosophers and assert that the element of air, not water, was the primary substance from which all things sprang forth. So you kind of get a feeling of like what's in the ancient world passage. Really helpful information. Then we drop into the message. This is where the divination, particulars, and guidance become revealed. If the origin key has come to you today, Xmenes wants you to search for the origin of the problem or situation you are questioning. How did it begin, and how would things be different if you were to start over? See, you already get a feel for the voice of this deck. It asks really great questions. It is not letting you get away from patterns and behaviors and things that might be really, really bringing you down. So it is a really, really lovely deck because it's doing that heavy lifting that we sometimes need when we are on a healing journey. Okay, so let's take a look at some pairings and see what could work really well here. One deck that I know works really well is the Mountain Dream Tarot. This is a photography deck. In fact, it was the first photography deck ever created. It's from the 70s. And there is kind of a 70s vibe to this deck, even though it was created in 2013, I believe. But nevertheless, there is a 70s-ish camaraderie between these two decks. So you can already see it, like the lilac is really nicely aligned with this High Priestess card. So the tones and pigmentation of the Mountain Dream have a nice color story next to the pastel borders found in the Abaton Keys. You can already, like this green kind of tinted wands looks really great with this retreat card, and the messages track. I know I got a hair going on. Oops. Yeah, the messages play out really, really well. Like, oh yeah, you've been like super, super creative. You did a lot of things. Maybe the balance of your life is a little bit off, so you need to retreat and take a bit of a break. Yeah, the messages come through really, really quickly. Wow. My hair does not want to go away. Sorry, guys. Oh, yeah. Yeah, realization with the Eight of Swords. Really like that. Yeah, the photography in each deck works really, really well. The Mountain Dream is a very, very unique deck in that it likes to speak from the dead. There is a very strong nostalgic voice to the Mountain Dream. It really speaks to the human condition, what it means to be a human. So it feels like it just goes really, really well with the themes found within the Abaton Keys. Yeah, they just look really, really nice together. All right, let's check out the next perfect pair, another 70s gem, the Aquarian Tarot. I didn't think these two would go together, but they seem to really like each other. The Aquarian Tarot has these pastel colors situated against these very vibrant oranges and reds. There's something really nice about the way these two decks communicate within the pastel color story, right? Like messages. Oh my gosh, like, you know, you're getting these messages coming through a portal, and that is taking you into planning and action. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, and then, you know, the blues of the Aquarian Tarot pick up well within the Abaton Keys. Yeah, I really, really like these two decks together. The messages have just really sang between them. Right, like trust, Ace of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles. Love that. Love, love, love. The Aquarian Tarot is very airy. It's very logical. So it can bring some structure to the Abaton Keys, which is dreamy and surreal at times. So that's another contrast that actually ends up working really, really well within a reading. That contrast serves readings in a really nice way. Yeah. Yeah. I think they are a pair. They really enjoy each other. All right, let's take a look at the Abaton Keys with another collage deck, the Zerner Barber Tarot. This is a very pink and purpley deck, so I don't really know if they're gonna completely go together, but we're gonna find out. Let's see what is what here. Okay, yeah, so Queen of Hearts, Eight of Hearts, aka Cups, with Paws. Yeah. I dig it. Oh, I mean, yeah, right? Princess of Swords archetype, Four of Hearts. Oh, yeah, nice. Boundless. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, the messages between those, very, very strong. Gratitude, Princess of Pentacles, Four of Swords. I love that, right? Taking a pause to really connect with what it is that you have. Dropping into gratitude. Love that. Lead, the Emperor, Seven of Hearts. What? Yes! Yes! I feel very confused about how to take on a position of leadership. That confusion makes it feel like there's a octopus on me. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, these decks are having a moment together. Really, really, truly. Even though the Zerner Barber has tons of pinks and purples, you know, and the Abaton Keys doesn't have like that significant of a color palette. There is a nice color story going on here. And then, you know, the collage work is quite different in either of these decks, right? The Zerner Barber has fabric collage as well as some traditional artwork. There's very little photography in the Zerner Barber, but you know, it's still working for me. The collage styles work for me. The Zerner Barber is also, you know, a very sweet deck. I use it a lot to connect with particular ancestors of mine, most especially my grandma. And, you know, that kind of energy has a deep healing quality. I've certainly had family members of mine appear in dreams and you know, provided deep guidance. So there's also something, you know, just personally thematic for me between these two decks. It really works. Yeah, I'm digging it. I think I'll leave it at that. Those were some of the pairings that I thought would go really well with the Abaton Keys. Please let me know what you think of this deck, what you would pair with it. And thanks so much for joining me for this in-depth review of a really robust and transformative oracle deck. I will see you all in the next video. Ta-ta for now.